All right, welcome to the pod. Heisman. They awarded the Heisman. Big sample Heisman. Large sample Heisman. Big sample. Jayden Daniels, LSU. My preseason pick. Boy, I should have bet that, huh?
You should have. Man, you would have got good odds, too.
Yeah, I had the LSU in the playoff, too. Sorry, Tiger fans. He came in first, 503 first-place votes. Michael Penix Jr., second, 292. This is the closest in like 12 years.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad. There's way too much groupthink in the...
I agree.
It's way too much groupthink. There's too many players to just define one guy. I don't like... This is one of the reasons I don't like the Heisman. They do have 1 million voters. Bo Nix, third, 51. Marv, 20. No nickname needed. Jordan Travis, quarterback, Florida State, 8. We mentioned last week he probably should have won it if he was so powerful and so good that a 13-0 team is nothing without him.
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe, 4. Jalen Milroe was benched this season, at least officially. Got 4. That's some Alabama. That's the guy that just tuned in to the SEC title game, right? Jalen Milroe? Really? I'll find out what you guys voted. I don't vote. Ollie Gordon II, inspired pick right there. I don't know who did that, but inspired pick, Oklahoma State running back, 1 vote. He got 1. 8th place was Cody Schrader of Missouri. Okay. You know, here I am saying I want more voters to vote for different people.
Don't be knocking it. Come on.
Okay,
Diversity
one guy.
of opinion.
One guy. Blake Corum, Michigan, 3 votes. Okay. 10th place, J.J. McCarthy, Michigan, 1 vote. I got no idea.
First place.
Yeah, this is the first one. I'm not doing seconds.
You're doing all first places. I got you.
I mean, you either win it or you don't.
Yeah.
I guess. Although I guess the seconds matter. Point
Seconds
total wise.
matter.
Yeah, they all matter. Thirds matter. Yeah. But that we would get, this is deep math. They have Deloitte put this out. Like they literally have a major accounting firm handle this or whatever. Doesn't seem that hard. But maybe. Anyway, I don't know how you're picking J.J. McCarthy. If you wanted to pick a Michigan guy, you got to go Blake Corum.
Yeah, that was a surprise. There's one guy on. There's usually not how do I put this? Each Heisman voter gets 3, 1, 2, 3, and usually all 3 of mine are in the top 10. But this year, my number 3, Rome Odunze, didn't even make the top 10. It was weird to see him completely left out. I thought he had incredible numbers and an incredible player, and I ended up voting him number 3, and it was surprising not to see him make the top 10.
Yeah, I kind of agree there.
He had a great season. Phenomenal. I think everybody was just like, if you're voting for a Washington guy, you're voting for Penix, period.
Yeah.
But you could vote for 2 Washington guys.
Who were your 2? What was your ballot, Ross? We're allowed to say now, right? No?
Yep.
Yeah, allowed to. I did Jayden Daniels 1, Bo Nix 2, and then Rome Odunze 3, and it was really hard with Penix and Odunze. I was going kind of back and forth in them, and I just ended up settling on the guy that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, you know.
Okay, Pat, what was your ballot?
My ballot was Daniels 1, Penix 2, Nix 3.
Boring.
And it was. But I it's one of the, not many times have I put 3 quarterbacks on there, but I just thought those guys statistically and just in terms of team accomplishments deserved it.
As much as I was touting Jayden Daniels all year, I might have picked, I don't vote, but I don't think we should. I think I don't know. I just don't think media should vote awards. So we don't have to get into all that. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, not a very popular or well followed one, like most of my ideas. But I don't vote. I think I would have put Penix won, and here would be my reasoning. Nothing against Jayden Daniels, who I obviously love. They not only made the playoff, but Kalen DeBoer was able to play a style of football that at times was unhinged because of how good Michael Penix was. And I go back to that 4th and 2 on his own 29-yard line against Washington State, where he gave him basically a triple option, it was not an RPO, just 3 different run options. Could have handed off, taken it himself, or pitch it to a Dunze for that play.
Yeah.
That's an outstanding football player when you can just sit there and be like, Michael figure it out. Not just Michael will make a play, which he made many plays, but Michael will figure something out here. I'm going to leave the entire season potentially in the arms, in the mind and abilities, talent and acumen of Michael Penix. That's it. The whole thing. I'm not going to play it safe, not anything. He'll figure out. He'll read the defense in the most pressurized moment, make a play. That was his Heisman moment.
Yeah,
if you will.
I wouldn't disagree with that, and I do think I know Ross and I have talked about it here on the pod too. That Washington's offense, which runs through Penix, actually breaks the brain of some of their opponents, where they feel like they have to gamble just because they know they're not going to stop Washington. So in terms of impact on the way games are played, pretty profound from Penix, and I mean really just the way Washington plays in general. But Penix is the progenitor of it, I guess you would say.
The thing that took me kind of over the top with Jayden is he really had, when he looked like a game by game, he really didn't have any like ups and downs. It was all pretty up. His numbers were incredible pretty much every single game. And you couldn't necessarily say that about Penix. There were a couple games in there, right? Like the Arizona State and Oregon State, maybe Washington State late in the year, I feel like, where it just wasn't, it didn't have the same kind of performance. Jayden just every single game was putting up literal video game type numbers, and some of the like records and things that he set. Some of the firsts that happened this year were really incredible, and I just kept coming back to that, But Penix is a worthy number 2, and I think in a lot of years, right, he would have been the Heisman winner. Because his numbers are incredible, and it seemed like in all the big games that he played, specifically I think of the 2 Oregon games. I mean, the guy was just incredible, and you could see why somebody would vote for him for sure.
I want to add on that about Jayden Daniels. It's funny. I mean, I didn't know there were people who were lined up to rip Jayden Daniels until he won, and then I heard from all of them.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Oh, he padded his stats. He never won any big games. Like, I mean, that people love to throw that late season SEC, non-conference game out and say, oh, well, that's why he padded his stats. Well, what did he do against Alabama? He was really good against Alabama. What did he do against Missouri, which was a very good team? He was incredible against Missouri. He was excellent against Mississippi. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Mississippi. But his numbers were preposterous. He is on pace. Has he just said whether he's playing the bowl game? He hadn't said, has he?
I can't
think
imagine.
so. I can't imagine he would.
Well,
I don't know.
If he doesn't, then he walks off with the single season NCAA record for pass efficiency. And then you throw in the fact that he also ran for 1,100 yards. I mean,
that's what sets him apart. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
From the other quarterbacks, is definitely the rushing. I mean, he had like 4 100-yard games, 4 or 5 rushing.
4 of them. One was a 200-yard game.
230. Yeah. I mean, his game against Florida State, 372 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 234 yards rushing.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
the 600-yarder right there.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
He had 6 I'm trying to look. He had 6 games this year where he had at least 96 yards rushing. He had a couple of games where he was in the 90s. He had 10 rushing touchdowns. It was incredible. I think that if LSU's defense had played a little better in a couple of these games, Florida State in Ole Miss specifically, we'd be talking about why LSU didn't get in the playoff type of talk.
Well, I will say, and it kind of goes back to this, who got in the playoff. The team that shut him down was Florida State.
Yeah.
The only touchdown was late. He threw like a 75-yarder when the game was out of control.
Mm-hmm.
He rushed for one in the third quarter he did not. They didn't score in the second. That's right. They didn't score in the second half. I'm looking at this. Yeah, there really wasn't much going on. He did not have a great game against Florida State. It's kind of just one more little bit of like Florida State's got to be sitting at home going, wait, they gave the Heisman to this guy and we shut him down. And you guys, yet we're not good enough, right? I don't know. So it was, what was the final? Let me get the final stats here, but I should have just led with that. 22 at 37 for 342, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But again, 75 of those came on one play when the game was over. He rushed for 64. So Florida State did the best job, and it didn't matter. I don't know if that should matter, but it's one more thing that Florida State's got to be just dying watching this thing go down.
Yeah. The second half of that game, Florida State dominated. The first half, it was really good. And really, even through 3 quarters, it was close and back and forth. But, LSU's defense broke down, and then LSU's offense got depressing, and they kind of took over.
So all 3 finalists were transfers.
Yeah, 3 finalist QBs, right?
QBs.
Quarterback, yeah.
3. That's right. I'm sorry. Marv was there. I didn't watch the ceremony. Talk about fluff, man. How they pull
you didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I mean, an hour for that.
Yeah.
I'll just wait for the Heisman house to come out and see who's in it. They could have had a Maserati. If Marvin won, they could have pulled a Maserati up. All 3 quarterbacks transfers. Now, they're second-year transfers, though. Spencer Hall had a good line about it, or good kind of take on it, of just like, if it wasn't for the transfer portal, these 3 could have been known as like cautionary tales of just really good players who went to all the wrong places. Like Nix went to Auburn because family and his dad and all that, and Penix was injured at Indiana, and that program can't get out of its own way. And Jayden Daniels was this exciting player at Arizona State, but that program can't get out of its own way. Major college coaches, the better programs missed on all of them. Maybe not Nix. I don't know how much he was interested in going anywhere other than Auburn. Right? Tennessee could have had Penix, didn't. Like all the different stuff that happened. And so it's like, it's one of the positives of the portal, and at this time when it's very easy to get frustrated as you just watch like this spinning wheel of portal, is these guys can be underdogs, discarded, and then heroes at the end. It's a pretty good, not a bad system considering how brief these guys' careers are.
Yeah. No, I wrote about it last week too, where they were stars early in their careers, and then things went to hell at their original schools, one way or the other. They played poorly. The team kind of fell apart around them, whatever the case may be. And by their 3rd year, 4th year, they were broken guys to a degree. Nix was benched in favor of, was it TJ Finley, I believe. Jayden Daniels last year the stats were awful. Penix was hurt, but also kind of benched. They never really were very clear about what all was going on there. And so, you get a fresh start. You go somewhere else. Hook back up with a coach that you previously had. In Nix's case, Kenny Dillingham, who was the offensive coordinator at Oregon. In Penix's case, Kalen DeBoer had been the offensive coordinator at Indiana. And get a second chance at it, and look what can happen. So, don't tell me the portal's all bad. there are many good stories that come out of the transfer portal. And I do think that's an important point, though, that second year after transfer, that's when they really accelerated their play and took it up another level.
Yeah. How about that? Sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. So I think they all kind of have proven that. And we're probably going to see a lot more cases like this. Look at the quarterbacks in the portal right now. You can pick 2 or 3 of them and think that in a year or two we might see them in New York City doing the same thing.
Well, the most obvious is one that committed over the weekend, and that is Dillon Gabriel, who started his career at UCF, went to Oklahoma, is leaving Oklahoma. I think they're ready to move on from him, perhaps, to Jackson Arnold, who spent a year, highly touted recruit out of Texas, who spent a year as his backup. And it's a little bit of how I think the talent gets dispersed. Instead of having 2 great quarterbacks at one school, they spread out. Maybe Jackson Arnold's great. I don't think anyone at Oklahoma is that upset that Dillon Gabriel's leaving. Obviously, you'd rather have him. But he's going to go to Oregon and walk right into that system. Now, can he do in 1 year what it seems like it takes 2? The 1 year guys, other than Caleb Williams, haven't necessarily been the solution. But
right. And Caleb Williams was running the same system with the same head coach, just a different school.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just bringing the coordinator or something like that. So I don't know, but honestly, for Oregon, they didn't make the playoff this year, and undoubtedly disappointed. But I find it really interesting how they're recruiting really well. They're getting elite transfers. They're getting elite talent, as they have been. Like, when the Big Ten wanted to expand it wanted USC and UCLA. And then it was just to this year that they finally decided we're trying to upgrade our TV. We'll take Oregon and Washington. It's Oregon and Washington. They're walking into this thing popping. I mean, other than maybe Michigan, I don't know if there's any program in the whole Big Ten that's got more wind behind them than these two. Or I don't even know if Michigan does.
Yeah, no, they're hot programs right now with great coaches that hopefully they can keep. I mean, for those programs' sake, because they have really got it going. I frankly, I'm not sure how well Washington's recruiting, but I would assume they're going to keep bringing in guys. We know Oregon is, and the Big Ten kind of almost accidentally is ending up with 2 better programs coming in than the 2 they went and got from Los Angeles.
Yeah, Dillon Gabriel charted a path across the country, didn't he? So or somebody said he took the Oregon Trail all the way from Oklahoma to Oregon, and before that from Florida. I just speaking about Washington and Oregon. Yeah, two programs that are certainly on the rise with coaches who really don't. This year, and I mean maybe next year. I don't have a place to go. Even if they wanted to go this year, certainly, right? With the carousel,
for sure,
there'll be something open. There's always a couple of openings you don't expect, but Dan Lanning, I think, has a $20 million buyout. I think Kalen DeBoer is a $12 million buyout, and I would expect that Kalen DeBoer's contract is being reworked, and he'll be soon up there with some of the highest paid coaches in the country with a new contract. So I would guess that. Those 2 guys seen there for not permanently, because nothing's ever permanent in this industry, but for a little while, and yeah, they might be somewhat of a tough matchup coming into the Big Ten. The only issue, obviously, is their financial situation. And they I don't know that Oregon has a real issue with Phil Knight and Nike and all that. But both of those schools are going to be taking half of the distribution for 7 years. in the Big Ten, half of what everybody else is taking. So keep that in mind as we go forward with this portal and these quarterbacks that are costing, a good chunk of change in coaches that, as I just mentioned, right, are going to be getting big raises to keep up with everybody else.
It's amazing they're getting half, and there's so many just underperforming programs. Never do anything.
Yeah. I mean, like Illinois
Rutgers
should.
Illinois.
I mean, there's
Indiana,
a half dozen of them that should wake up every day saying, "Thank God in 1901 somebody decided to put us in this league."
Yeah. Somebody did I was doing a Q&A about Baker's proposal, and somebody messaged me and said, how could Rutgers afford this? And I had to remind the person, Rutgers in about a couple of years is going to be getting like $70 million in TV distribution. I think everybody should keep that in mind.
Yeah, because Ohio State and Michigan draw 20 million people. That's how they afford it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That hurts. You're like, I'm getting half the money of you dolts. You guys had to come all the way out here to get us because TV hates you because you all suck. Oregon's got 4 top 100 recruits. My guess is outside of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, the rest of the league doesn't have 4 top 100 recruits.
I would think that's 100% correct.
Yeah. Oh, and we just grabbed Dillon Gabriel. Oh, and Washington's going to play. Anyway, that's how it is. All right, we'll be back right after this. All right, I looked it up. Yeah, number of top 100 recruits per 24/7 sports for the Big Ten, not going to the traditional teams. Now, I'm not counting SC, Washington, all that. Oregon's got 4. The rest of the league outside of Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. So the other 11 schools, 2 kids. One's going to Nebraska, one's going to Minnesota.
Yep.
And the Minnesota, 2 kids. That's it. Good work.
Shocking that the Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, that there's a gap between them and everybody else on the field, right?
Yeah. And recruiting-wise, there's always a gap between Ohio State and the rest is not close.
Yeah.
Which is part of what has Ryan Day feeling some heat. So it's true here. Michigan doesn't really get elite recruits. They just get a lot of guys. Harbaugh finds 3 stars like no one's business. You look at his, Corum and Hassan Haskins the last few years. I don't think either of them were particularly huge recruits. Those are 2 really good running backs. Anyway, transfer portal in the Big Ten. Kyle McCord took a visit to Nebraska over the weekend. And so that's a possibility there. I think that's I've always been, one of the things I hated about the pre-transfer portal was the coaches putting the blockades on everybody. You can't go to these certain schools, and this idea you couldn't transfer in the conference always drove me nuts. If you're a conference, you should want these players to stay
in your league. Yeah.
We just talked about you're not getting any high school recruits. Might as well get Ohio State's cast-offs.
Well, if you're the conference office, that's true. If you're the head coach of one of these schools, it's not you're not wanting them to stay in the league.
That's why the conference
everybody
has to
listens
oversee.
To the angry head coaches.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's have a phone call and hear what. Oh, this would be terrible. How could Ohio State? Kyle McCord will know our secrets. Like, come on.
The signs?
Signs.
Yeah.
Danger signs.
There's plenty of ways to get your secrets, it turns out.
Yes. Yeah.
Cheating. Nebraska's cheating by signing Kyle McCord. They have not got him yet, but this would be significant. One other bit on Kyle McCord. Urban Meyer agrees with me, or I agree with Urban Meyer. See who's taking the lead from who. We separately came to the same conclusion. McCord going in the transfer portal. It made no sense, Meyer said. I'm still trying to comprehend it. I tried to take a position of Kyle or even Ohio State and it does not compute. I'm trying to make it compute because I want to be emphatic and I want to say, okay, I understand. There's no place better for Kyle than Ohio State. That place does not exist unless he's being guaranteed a starting spot. Once again, I don't agree with that's the best place. I think iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel. Best thing that anyone can do is go compete your tail off, get better, maximize who you are. And then he said, he basically said he thought, I don't know where this was. He thought Ohio State must have been just okay with it, but they're losing some talent too. So I kind of agree. Not necessarily that Kyle should, I'm not sure I go with quite what he's saying, but why Ohio State would let this guy go out the door. But anyway, thoughts on Matt Rule perhaps getting Kyle McCord, who is a hell of a good quarterback.
Yeah, and Lord knows they need help. And
Yeah.
Julian Fleming, too, the receiver,
Yeah.
is also looking at Nebraska. It would be nice to get the duo because Nebraska's passing game was atrocious this last year. The bottom 5 in passing yards per game in the nation, the 3 service academies, then Iowa, then Nebraska. I mean, terrible. 135 yards a game, their efficiency 105, which is also bottom 5 in the country. So Matt Rule, they brought in Jeff Sims last year, transfer from Georgia Tech. He didn't work out at all. They tried 2 other guys. They didn't have a quarterback, period, and that kept them from having a 500 record or going to a bowl game. So that would be huge, I think, instant upgrade there at that position, and they badly need it.
I was trying to think of the last time that a program, perennial kind of like top 10, maybe even top 15 program, lost its starting quarterback to transfer without its head coach leaving. I was racking my brain. I mean, the Caleb Williams is right, the obvious one, but he left with Lincoln Riley, so he's kind of excluded from that. It's pretty rare, and I wonder if we'll see that more. I don't quite understand it either, and I don't know that anybody's gotten exactly to the bottom of what happened there.
That's going to be fascinating. I know we keep going back to it, but like this kid is good, and we're just talking about how that second year you can really make a jump. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem like anyone in Ohio State is crying too much, or you weren't going to guarantee him a starting spot. But I don't know who you bringing in. So like we've covered.
You
this.
know what? As we talked about it, Oklahoma State lost their starter last year, the year before, Spencer.
Sanders. Yeah,
he went to be a backup too.
Yeah, he went to be a backup at Ole Miss. Yeah, I mean, he thought he was probably going to maybe start there, and then Jackson Dart started over him. So there you go. So there's, I think you could say Oklahoma State's been the last few years a top 15 program, and so there's one. So there's 2 that we've seen. It's kind of fascinating. Yeah, you hope that Kyle McCord ends up at a place where he starts more than Spencer Sanders did, which is 0.
The Spencer Sanders, what Lane Kiffin did in the portal was truly like voodoo or something.
Getting 3 quarterback, three transfer quarterbacks,
starting level quarterbacks to transfer. Guess what? 1 played.
Yeah,
that one didn't make a lot of sense.
And he's coming back, right?
Sanders?
No. Dart is coming back.
Dart, yeah.
So it's not like the door. It's not like the spot is open.
Right.
It's like Sanders still has time.
I don't think so.
No, I think he's done. Yeah.
Riley Leonard left Duke. I had a really good season 2 years ago. Injured this year a lot. He visited Notre Dame. He may still take a visit to Ohio State and Auburn, per some reports, has not committed yet. So maybe Ohio State can come in and grab Riley Leonard and beat Notre Dame for him. But if Riley Leonard goes to Notre Dame, Pat, your thoughts on what that would mean for the Irish?
I think the ACC should consider maybe not scheduling Notre Dame 5 games a year because they've become the feeder system for him at quarterback. Sam Hartman last year and Riley Leonard this year, if that happens, if it comes to pass. Potentially really good, really good. You look at Leonard's numbers this year, and they're not spectacular, but this team wasn't really built for him to just sling it around. And then once he got hurt against Notre Dame, the rest of his season, he only played 2 more games and wasn't very effective. But he can run, he can throw, he's tough, he's resourceful. I don't know that he's like a significant upgrade over Sam Hartman, but he's a good, experienced quarterback you could plug in and feel like you got somebody there right away. I know the pros like him, are intrigued by Leonard, but if you're Notre Dame, it would be big for sure. Just because I think they feel like they haven't quite got their guy yet. We'll see that the 2024 player, Lloyd Carr's, is it grandson?
CJ Carr. He's coming next. He's coming next. Yeah, his grandson.
Right, but so he's not going to be ready to start as a freshman. You wouldn't think so. Bring him in, develop him, and see where it goes from there. But Notre Dame has been they have been very active in the portal, and they've needed it. Gosh, their whole receiving corps, it seems like, is on the way out. Plus the receiving coach. So there's some churn at Notre Dame heading into next year for sure.
All of this makes me think: Are we in an era where, like, the blue bloods of college football, the top 8 to 10 to 12 programs, are no longer going to develop high school quarterbacks? Is that a thing that's happening here? Because they can afford to buy quarterbacks who have been developed already because they have the money to do it. Whatever it costs, $1 million, $2 million. I mean, Matt Rule said it was in between 1.5 and 2 million for a really good transfer quarterback. And there's only a few programs that will do that, right? Probably the elite. Are we gonna see those programs just stop developing high school quarterbacks? I don't know. Just something that popped in my head.
I don't think so, because they recruit like hell for these guys. But I will say it's not necessarily as big of a deal if you don't get that 5-star QB right off the bat.
Right.
I mean, you still want that guy that you're developing and getting that year as a red. I mean, that's the ideal way. But look, in the playoff, there's 4 teams. Washington's got Penix, obviously transfer. Texas has Quinn Ewers, who's a transfer. Alabama tried to get a transfer. They didn't want Jalen Milroe.
They tried, yep.
And Michigan's got J.J. McCarthy, who they have had.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan is trying hard to get number 1 recruit in the class of 25, Bryce Underwood, top quarterback. He, seems like he's going to go to LSU. Losing that maybe in the past would have been devastating, like it was last year when they lost, they lose Dante Moore, a kid from Detroit, 2 straight local 5-star quarterbacks, and maybe neither signs with Michigan. That would be pretty devastating. So they might get Dante Moore back now.
Right.
Because he goes to UCLA, and it's almost like, good, go out there, learn some stuff, and if we get you back, we'll see. I think there's ways to overcome losing those QBs, but we've always seen top QBs transfer. I mean, Justin Fields was a transfer, and, even Stetson Bennett was a transfer. He left, came back.
Baker Mayfield,
Kyler Murray. Yeah, right. It's so, I don't know. I don't think anyone's, I just think it's always been there, but I think it's less of a killer if you don't get one of those top guys.
Right.
But trying to go on plug and play with a QB, though, is dangerous.
Yeah. What happens when it misses and then all of a sudden and you don't have the guy that you've, been grooming or whatever to be ready there? It's high risk, high reward, I would say.
We're seeing a lot this year. Just like expect to see a lot of transfer. You're losing a transfer and replacing. You're losing a transfer quarterback and replacing them with a transfer quarterback. Kind of like Oregon. Would just happen with Oregon. What might happen with Notre Dame. I feel like we're going to see a lot of that this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think. Take like Mississippi State, they lose their quarterback, Will Rogers, good player. And then they grab Baylor's Blake Shapen. So he's coming in. Now, is that going to be an even trade? Who knows? But everything's just shuffling around. These guys are running around just looking for spots. It's weird. One other deal on the transfer portal, and we'll keep covering it. Colorado's now up to 4 offensive linemen they're bringing in. So the Coach Prime rebuilt offensive line. They also landed Jordan Seaton out of Washington, D.C., and then IMG Academy, who is a 5-star offensive line high school recruit. Now, 2 offensive linemen are leaving. So who knows if this is an upgrade. They need a whole bunch of Jordan Seatons. But but that is a significant recruit and potentially a big deal for Colorado. And we'll see what they get the rest of the way. Pat's best friend there, Coach Prime, he just hangs out with up in Boulder. But I don't know if you can build an. I mean, it's hard enough to plug and play a quarterback. I'm not really sure plugging and playing an entire line is a good idea.
Yeah,
I'd feel better if Prime was signing a few more high school or very young offensive linemen that he could develop up. It just feels like it's a craps table move, but hey, who knows? So I don't know. Jordan Seaton, though, big deal for Colorado, and maybe it's a sign of some hope there on the lines because they're gonna get skill players.
Yeah, I mean that they had to go this direction. I mean, certainly, yes, you want high school linemen because that's obviously the long-term future of your program, and being able to develop 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 guys yourself is very important. But they really didn't have a choice. I mean, their line was bad last year. They inherited a terrible line. I mean, Colorado's in the trenches had just been atrocious for years. And so they had to go immediate upgrade. And now you kind of get a little bit in that cycle of churn there. So we'll see what happens bringing in these guys. I know like Louisville brought in like 5 linemen. They didn't plug them all in right away. It wasn't like it wasn't a line shift like hockey, but they had several linemen that came in that they put in the lineup and got immediate results from. And we'll see if that's the same for Colorado. The other thing they probably need to do at Colorado is get Shedeur Sanders to throw the ball away a little bit more instead of holding it and getting sacked. I mean, he was sacked by far the most of any quarterback in the country, I'm pretty sure, this last year, which is partly on the line, but it's also partly on him. But they did that. They got a 4-star receiver, I think, yesterday. So, we'll see how broad-based the whole class is, transfers and high school players. But Prime has gotten some things moving here since the season ended.
Yeah, that's what they needed to do, right? Stock up on the line. He said it a lot. He was as Prime goes. He's pretty blunt about things, and he made it pretty clear that he needs new offensive linemen. The linemen have been the most difficult position, though, to get from the portal when you talk to coaches. I mean, there's just not a lot of great ones out there. So it'll be interesting if he gets enough good ones to patch this thing together and make it work.
They also have a top JUCO lineman coming in.
Right.
One of the best out of Butler Community College in Kansas. I like that. That could be. So, I mean, hey, if he's not motivated by anybody, you got to protect your son. Interesting coaching move. We'll get to our coaching rankings sometime, maybe when the cycle totally plays out. But North Dakota State coach Matt Entz, the head coach, is leaving to become the linebacker coach at USC. He's won 2 national titles as the head coach at North Dakota State, 4 as the defensive coordinator. North Dakota State's a hell of a job. Then again, if you're facing a Fargo winter, do you just sit there and go, hell, that's it. Yeah, linebacker. I'll go to LA. Just screw it. That's a why. Like, really, the best you could do is USC linebacker coach. I didn't even know they had linebackers or coaches who worked with the linebackers there. Based on,
I think that's why the job is open.
It's a hell of a hire.
Yeah, that was fascinating to me. And that the big programs can money whip a coach maybe out of a head coaching job and into something else, and maybe that's a different way to take their career to a Power 5 head coaching position or a better head coaching position. We saw Sean Lewis go from head coach at Kent State to offensive coordinator at Colorado to now head coach at San Diego State. And I wonder too if Matt Entz looked and North Dakota State had slipped down a little bit. They were still in the playoffs in FCS, but they weren't the dominant force that they had been. But I wonder if he looked at David Braun at Northwestern, who obviously got his opportunity by emergency means, but still made the most of it and is now the head coach at Northwestern.
David Braun worked for Matt Entz.
Yes. He might be sitting there saying, I was that guy's boss, and now he's the head coach at in a Big Ten program. I need to maybe get a little different career path. And so I think it's potentially a great hire for Lincoln Riley. They obviously need massive amounts of help on defense. They need Lincoln to care about defense. They need Lincoln to run a accountable, tough program, but this might be a good way to further that goal by bringing in the guy from North Dakota State.
Well, not just Braun, but Jeff Choate. Jeff Choate, who was just hired at Nevada, was Montana State's head coach, and then left that for kind of a co-DC linebackers role with Texas. Kind of a similar situation that Entz left for, and he was there at Texas for a couple of years, and then got a head job. Entz was in the mix for some of these Mountain West head coaching jobs, like Nevada and Boise and San Diego State, New Mexico. His name kind of came up in a lot of those, and for whatever reason, those schools decided to go other routes, and who knows, maybe those processes with those jobs maybe has swayed him in some way that he needs to go and do something else to try to level up.
Funny little story here that Sean, who knows everything about FCS football, brought up. North Dakota State was playing South Dakota in football, and these stadiums aren't that big, and North Dakota State's got a traveling pack, and this was a quarterfinal game, so high ticket demand. So North Dakota has you can purchase, if you're a season ticket holder, you can jump in and get in jump the line, right? Like maybe buy on a Monday, and then the general sales will go on Tuesday or Wednesday. The North Dakota State fans figured out the password to pretend you were a South Dakota season ticket holder. And they jumped in and bought tons of the tickets. The password.
That's great.
And then South Dakota became they figured out that what was going on, and then they canceled all ticket sales from North Dakota. They snuck it. Can you guess the password? Either one of you. You got one guess. What's the password? South Dakota's password for playoff access.
Go Coyotes. Aren't they the Coyotes? Wrong.
Are they Jackrabbits? What are they?
No, that's South Dakota State's the Jackrabbits.
Okay. Not Go Coyotes, no.
Okay.
Okay, it's not that deep. Just pick something.
It reminds me of the Office
Jeopardy
episode. Sorry. It reminds me of the Office episode. They're trying to figure out a password that the former IT guy made, and the password ended up being Big Boobs with a Z. Big Boobs with a Z?
It is not that. It is not that.
What is it?
Playoffs. I don't even know why we played this game. Playoffs. They made it simple.
That's great.
Playoffs.
That's great. Just playoffs. Awesome. Perfect. Couldn't even put a Z on the end, dude.
No, just
like
playoffs.
Capital something, capital letter.
Hope their play calling was more creative than the password.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Stallions would just
he'd mock
toying
that.
Hack into that real quick.
Yeah, he'd be like, I didn't steal anything. If you're going to make it playoffs, it might as well be password, right? At that point. I don't know. That's where we're at. So anyway, they had to cancel. South Dakota won, Sean. Is that correct?
South Dakota got beat bad by
North Dakota State won. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But then is North Dakota State still playing, or are they out?
They are. North Dakota State is still playing in the playoffs.
Oh, wait. Does the coach left while they're in the semis?
It's a yes. The news broke while they're about to play in the semis.
Oh boy,
is he going to stay to coach the game?
You got to.
It's expected that he's going to close out the season with the team, but with these decisions, we kind of know what happens in the locker rooms after.
Yeah,
a lot of air gets sucked out.
That's bizarre. I mean, to go to another like an FBS head coaching job is one thing, but to go to be a position assistant in the middle of your middle of your playoffs.
And did like USC have to announce this? Like, was it this big of a deal? Like, hey, who's your linebacker coach, man? We need to know.
It leaked out by local South Dakota media.
North Dakota.
I can't remember who broke it.
There should be one Dakota, by the way.
North Dakota, yeah.
The arrogance of these people thinking there should be two of them.
There's not enough people, really.
There's not enough. There's one Dakota, more than enough Dakota to go around for one state. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not a two-state thing. That's the biggest BS going in this country. Two Dakotas.
Two Dakotas.
So who does North Dakota State play now in the semifinals, and should we bet all our money on who they're playing?
North Dakota State has to play a white-hot Montana program that is, and Montana has been rolling. So it's big fear time for North Dakota State because they had all the momentum. A day later, all the air sucked out of the room. Our coach isn't going to be with us after this season.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
this is
lay the lumber on the Grizz.
There might be some guys on the North Dakota State that are like, hey, if I play well, will you take me with you?
Yeah, true.
I mean, SC sounds pretty damn good,
at a
coach.
Fargo winter, too, yeah.
That's what I would do. I'd walk in the locker room, like, guys, I wish it hadn't come out, but y'all would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Find me anyone here that doesn't want to go to USC.
Yeah, I mean, Fargo to L.A.,
Yeah.
you know. I want to give her credit. A Logan Campbell, TV reporter who covers North Dakota State football. Yeah, that's where it leaked from. She broke the story yesterday around 3 p.m., and so it leaked out, so I guess they had to do something at that point. I'm sure they were hoping that it wouldn't. But yeah, there you go.
Pat, you had a topic idea from yesterday's Chiefs game, NFL game, where the really tremendous play the Chiefs ran with Travis Kelce throwing a lateral for what would have been the game-winning touchdown, probably game-taking lead, called back because of the guy was offside, lined up offside. I don't really know what all the complaining about all this is because
it's unbelievably whiny from the Chiefs.
He did do it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty egregious. His whole helmet was like in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he did it. So whatever. Anyway, play was called back. You had some great plays in college football that got taken back because of a penalty.
Yeah. Right. Great plays that didn't count.
Great plays that didn't count.
Yeah.
What do you got? I can't think of
three of them. Well, the one that jumped to my mind immediately, and then intelligent readers added two others. But the one that jumped to mind for me was George Teague taking the ball from Lamar Thomas of Miami in the 1993 Sugar Bowl. So Miami was undefeated on its way seemingly to an easy repeat, or maybe even a three-peat. I'm trying to remember. No, it would have been a repeat. 92, and they were playing an Alabama team that was undefeated more by pluck, it seemed, and like the expectation was that Miami was going to go in and just roll them, and it went the other way, and Alabama rolled Miami, but the signature play was a bomb to Lamar Thomas, and he's running for the end zone, and George Teague just flies up behind him and just rips the ball away from him and goes the other way, like literally like a parent taking a ball from an 8-year-old. I mean, it was the most unbelievable thing, if you guys remember.
I do. It was incredible.
But it was, so, Alabama was offsides on the play. So the play didn't even actually count. Although, this was a free play shot bomb on an offsides. And so if Teague hadn't taken the ball away, Miami would have declined the penalty and had a 50-yard gain. So it did kind of count. But that one... And then the two others that people mentioned, probably the biggest one was Rocket Ismail 90-yard punt return in the final minute against Colorado that would have kept Colorado from winning the national championship.
I remember that.
Got called back on a clip or a block in the back that really didn't affect the play. And then somebody brought up the Cooper DeJean invalid fair catch punt return against Minnesota.
That's a good point, too. All right, you had three. I forgot.
Yep.
You have any, Ross?
Nope.
I will say this. I don't have one, but this troubled me, and it almost happened. Well, it's not it actually did not almost happen. It's not what we're talking about, but I hate the sportsmanship penalties.
Oh, yeah.
Unsportsmanlike conduct. And you have to be egregious. Ripping your helmet off to celebrate is particularly maddening to me. And if you remember the end of the Ohio State-Michigan game with the interception, Michigan was flagged because one of the other players on the team, as he's running off to celebrate, he's about 15 yards from the sideline, rips his helmet off and gets flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct, taking your helmet off. Now, it didn't matter. But if that ball hadn't actually been intercepted and it had whatever, they go to review, all of a sudden that 15 yards is massive. And this kid is now like a huge goat. I hate that rule.
Yeah.
Like we put so much heat on this game and these kids are playing the game and whatever, young men. It's so exciting. You just beat Ohio State and you're running towards your sideline and you rip your helmet off a little early, not running and like screaming at Ryan Day and ripping your helmet off. And you flag that. Like, F that, man. Ain't no sportsmanship in that moment. Everyone just goes crazy one way or the other. I hated that call. I was like, man, this could be a huge problem. And it wasn't. And I'm glad because no one remembers what happened.
Yeah, I would like to hear an explanation of the helmet rule. Like why that is a rule.
Because they listen to old crusty football coaches. We do a class job over here. Like that. Enjoy the moment, man. You just won this game.
I mean, if you are running to the opposite sideline to taunt them, that's a different deal. But if you're just taking off your helmet in excitement, who cares?
And I'm like, what kind of persnickety? I know you got to call it's a penalty, but like, come on, ref. Jeez. The entire college football season boiled down to this one play. There's 25 million people at that point watching. Legacy's on the line, the whole thing. And the kid rips the helmet off while running to celebrate with his teammates. And it's like, oh, wait a minute now. 15 yards. Like, I remember because it was a little bit of a dispute. Did he catch it or not? Right.
Yeah.
And during that moment, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be unbelievable. This poor guy. Stop having fun. Stop trying to do the sportsmanlike thing. As this arbitrary sportsmanship is the worst.
Well, I will say, I think college football refs got a little bit more lenient this last year in terms of like kid scores a touchdown and wants to show off a little bit. They've been letting it happen a little bit more because there's stuff that would have been flagged in years past that did not get flagged. And I'm glad.
Yeah. All right. I got one story here, one people's court before we go. Irony here. Fox 35 out of Orlando. An Orlando man was arrested after he drove a van full of prison inmates off course and refused to stop while traveling in North Carolina. On Tuesday at 9 a.m., deputies received a call to be a lookout for an inmate transport van traveling on I-40 in Statesville, North Carolina. The caller was the owner of the inmate transport company and reported the driver was off course and refusing to return the van. The driver, Joshua James Pinkett, had 4 inmates locked in the cargo area of the van. Another employee was traveling in the van, and he texted the owner. Pinkett told the owner he was quitting his job as a prison transport driver in the middle of the trip.
Wow. Perfect.
And
timing.
refused to stop for intended destinations. He was supposed to stop at a location in Hickory with the inmates, but refused and just kept driving. Apparently, he just quit the job, but didn't want to return the thing. He's now charged with 5 counts of felony.
He's going to soon be an inmate.
Yes. Yeah. Kidnapping. They're saying he kidnapped everybody. And felony larceny by an employee. So the guy just had it as his job as inmate driver. First, the idea that we outsource this is a little terrifying. I think regular listeners know I'm not like big government kind of guy, but there's certain things the government should be handling. And I don't know.
Toting inmates, across the interstate probably is one of them.
Seems like the job of the government to me. I think even the harshest libertarian would be like, yeah, maybe we should just hire a few guys to drive these dudes around. So we all would love that moment where you just like, take this job and shove it, right? It's a very, very, very common theme of life. This guy just had it. He just had it. So what should the punishment be here, Pat? I guess the guys were all right. I'll try to find out an update this story, but what should the penalty be?
Where did they finally get him? Well, yeah, where did they finally get him?
Let me see. Quits job. There wasn't a lot of
follow-up. He's from Orlando. Did he drive him all the way from Florida?
This is what's happening with the Daily Mail. No, the story was out of Atlanta. It was Orlando. The Daily Mail is slipping. Okay. The Daily, I'm not getting my Daily Mail is comprehensive on these stories, and they're not doing anymore. I got to go with the New York Post, which isn't bad, but it's not the Daily Mail. They were turned over. Oh, they were headed to Florida. Okay, so I guess it was must have been a federal thing. They were turned over to another guy. They stopped him on the interstate. The cops stopped him, and he just said he didn't want to stop, I guess. Okay. Are there some jobs you just can't quit in the middle?
Yes, there are. That's one of them.
Pilot.
I mean,
yeah, pilot's a good
surgeon.
Good call.
Surgeon.
Yeah.
Not quit in the middle of open heart surgery and say, "No, I'm done." No punishment. I guess that's yes. Your life lessons. If you're going to quit a job, finish the job first, then do the quitting. By golly, don't leave those last couple assignments undone. He should have to change the oil on all the prison vehicles, right? This guy likes to drive. He should be around. He should be in charge of changing the oil on all of them while he's in the lockup, obviously himself. And but he can't take any trips anywhere. No way. He's definite flight risk.
Lose your license in the clink.
Yeah.
You don't get to drive anywhere.
Should not be allowed. Never allowed to drive again. How about that?
That'd be good.
In general.
I'm always fascinated by the inmate, the guards that become like they start breaking. Like you'd think if anyone had a constant reminder of like, no, I don't want to end up like that.
Yeah.
Like you think it sucks driving the van? It's worse riding in it.
Oh yeah. We did one time. We did hard time.
Pat and I had to ride. That's right. We mentioned that we had to ride in the Pasadena City prison inmate. We were not inmates, nor even suspected of a crime other than illegal parking, apparently. Not moving our car fast enough. Yeah. That's what we got.
Right.
But yeah, I was in there with you. I did hard time with you, and those 15 minutes were more than enough, man. I had to break off a piece of the seatbelt, try to do a shank just to keep Pat.
What are y'all talking about? You were in the back of a police van?
Yeah, we talked about this a couple of episodes ago. You were here.
3 a.m. outside the Rose Bowl.
They towed our car. Okay. They towed Pat's car.
That's right. And had a that's right.
And they gave us a lift because they felt bad. We were the only sober people. Everyone else was drunk in the parking lot except us, and they towed Pat's car.
Yeah.
Pat was driving. It was terrible. It's all Pat's fault.
Yeah, anyway, happy to shift blame here.
At least that guy didn't quit. He took us to some hotel and somewhere downtown Pasadena and got us out of there. Anyway, ridiculous. I don't know. This guy's an idiot. This guy is a flat out idiot. It's one of our dumbest criminals. Did he think he was getting of course they're going to look for the inmate. They're not inconspicuous.
This is not like an Avis rental car that they won't notice is gone for a day or two.
He's in a gray Honda Accord. Okay. Can't really.
This feels like inmate instigation from the back.
Good.
They could keep going.
They could hear the call. Yeah. You can take that from that guy? You can get a better job than this. Just drop us off here. Go start yourself over.
Could be. Yeah, peer pressure. I got to find out more.
They talked him into it.
They have my normal sources have just dropped off this story. I need more. I'm going to do more research. I'll be back next episode with more. I don't know. I don't understand. Anyway, that's our show. We'll be back Thursday. Wednesday. Yeah. Bowl Bonanza Part 1. Get ready. Get ready. Always a popular. Plus, who knows what other transfer portals or stuff happens. Thanks for listening. Keep subscribing. Talk to you later.